Good morning and welcome to another episode of Charlotte County Through the Decades. We are closing out the Centennial here in the next few months, and today we are going to talk about the 1980s. Yes, that's right, the 1980s. So we've come a long way talking about the founding of Charlotte County. We've talked about development in Port Charlotte, right? All these key events in the county's history. And today, what I thought I would share with you is the Centennial, not of the county, but the city of Punta Gorda's Centennial, which was celebrated in 1987. And so we're here in downtown Punta Gorda to talk about this a little bit. And really what I'm going to do with you, as I've done before in some other videos, is share with you newspaper coverage of the event at the time. And so if you recall, right, Punta Gorda was platted in 1885, but was formally incorporated and founded in 1887, December of 1887. So 1987, this is a huge moment for the city, right, to celebrate this centennial. And there's going to be year-long events, and I'm not going to cover everything, but they covered a few important events, so we'll focus on that. So one of the biggest, one of the kickoff events, if you will, or one of the more important events early on in 1987 was what they called Centennial Week. So this was an entire week in April of 1987 to celebrate Punta Gorda's Centennial. And they're promoting it, right? So this is something that is promoted, as we've seen with other events, like we've seen with Charlotte County's Centennial, and we talked about the 50th anniversary of Charlotte County, right? Where there's promotional events leading up to the main events. So one of the big things that they are going to do is a Centennial dance. A Centennial dance. And this is going to be the Pioneer Costume Centennial Dance. And I know that probably sounds very funky and odd to our younger viewers today. But this is going to be a toe-tapping, hand-clapping, clogging, and disco-do dance. And yes, that is the literal verbiage that they use. It was going to be held Saturday, April 11th at the Charlotte Memorial Auditorium from 8:30 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. And there are some pictures here in the newspaper. It says Centennial Week, which started with a parade, ended with the stamp of cloggers and the swing of country music on the dance floor at the Charlotte County Memorial Auditorium. The Pioneer Costume Centennial Dance started with the arrival of groups of costume partiers wearing costumes ranging from Civil War officers, cowboys in black leather, and hayseeds in bib overalls, even including a Mississippi River gambler in a burgundy frock coat. The ladies were dressed in hoops from Louis the VII, sunbonnets and gingham to the 1920s flapper styles. So, quite an array of costumes here. The music was provided by the Armadillo Brothers Band and included some of the top 40 country music played with style and a lot of talent. So this was, right, and dances, whether you're a young person watching, whether one of our snowbirds or retirees watching, right, we've all been to dances, whether it's the prom, whether it's galas, right? So it's not surprising that during the Centennial year, Punta Gorda is going to celebrate with this Pioneer dance. And they kind of keep following it up. They say there's music, there's dancing in the streets of Punta Gorda. They'll be celebrating the like of which hasn't been seen since the bad old days of cowboys, railroadmen, vacationing millionaires, and famous fishermen come to sample the harbor's waters, right? So this is really meant to celebrate the county's entire history, but also the city's, right? The city's history, right? Going back to that late 19th century period where, Southwest Florida really was kind of a rough and tumble kind of place, and really showing how far the city had come over the decades. They also talk about the Centennial Week, which the dance is going to be the culminating part of, right? So they have a whole piece talking about that, including a parade and different musical performances. So it says, Week of Celebrating has activities for all ages. Punta Gorda Centennial Week is coming, right? From April 4th through the 11th, there will be activities every day for young and old. starting the week is a parade beginning at 10:30 a.m. April 4th and running through a pioneer costume dance at 8:30 p.m. on the 11th. The activities range from art shows, flower shows, gospel concerts, sports events, and a jail-a-thon and kangaroo court, right? And I'll just kind of turn this towards the camera here. This is the parade route and booth areas for the parade. So we'll just kind of hold that up there. Don't know if you'll be able to see, but kind of hold that in there so you can get a sense of what all is going on. So Marion Street, right behind me here, this would have been right at the forefront of these activities, not just the parade, but also these other events as well. And we've talked about events in Charlotte County's history that have also featured Marion Street, right? When we talked about the bridges, right? The July 4th, 1931 dedication of the Baron Collier Bridge. Where's the parade? Well, it's going right down Marion Street. Even in 1921, when they opened the first bridge, right? Marion Street plays a role. So this street has played a very important role in the city's history and in the county's history going back many decades. What else? There will be an old-time gospel music concert and also a concert for youth. The parade watchers will be able to see Seminole Indians as well as descendants of the first residents of Punta. And so if you think about this, in 1987, right, there were still residents living in Punta whose families, right, had that direct connection to that pioneer founding time period. And I think, you know, sometimes it's hard for us to think about that today, but think about in your own families. Think about if your family's been in Charlotte County for 40, 50, 60 years, what have they seen, right? And how we still have those connections to those periods in the county's past. Gussie Baker, chairman of the Punta Gorda Centennial Committee, will be leading the parade on a bicycle built for two, and other members of the committee will also be riding bicycles, including two high riders. This week is going to be great, said Baker. There is so much going on, and they are finishing up the wiring on the old-fashioned streetlights, and they should be ready to light by then. Now, one of the key events, and I thought this was very interesting, anybody has heard of Minnie Pearl. If there's any country music fans watching our video this morning, Minnie Pearl is probably a name that you might remember, very famous from the old days of Grand Ole Opry. Well, she is going to come here to Punta Gorda and help celebrate the city's centennial. Minnie Pearl had a big howdy that was her famous. If you've ever seen videos of her, or if you're curious, go on YouTube. That was always how she entered her show on the Grand Ole Opry, with the big howdy. She had a very particular costume, her hat. Minnie Pearl had a big howdy for Punta Gorda Tuesday when she came to help celebrate the city's 100th birthday. Dressed in yellow and flashing a friendly country smile, Pearl was greeted by a crowd of fans at the Punta Gorda Holiday Inn, where she rested before putting on a show for the city's celebration block party, right? So this is a pretty big deal. And again, this is something, one of those events where the city has this big party to commemorate, right? But here, remembering the centennial. Since we are with Libraries and History, I wanted to give a little shout out here because the library is going to get involved in the celebration as well, which is not surprising, right? Libraries are part of our community, and they always have been, and they usually are kind of at the center of various community events. So the Sun says, as part of the Centennial celebration, the Punta Gorda Public Library, located at 424 West Henry Street, will host an old-fashioned library tea on Thursday, April 9th from 2 to 4 p.m. The public is invited and admission is free. Former librarians and many of the persons who contribute to the cultural, social, and civic life of the community are expected to attend. Tours of the facility will be conducted, and mementos of earlier days will highlight the history of the library from its modest beginnings in 1905 to the present. Come see how our library has grown while enjoying refreshments and conversations with fellow citizens. Then they also have a Centennial calendar. So this was posted in the newspaper every day to remind people of what was going on, again, during this Centennial week in April. So, for example, there's a shuffleboard tournament, a golf tournament, a quilt show, there's a jail-a-thon, the library tea we've already mentioned, and then, of course, as we started off with, the pioneer costume dance in the auditorium to cap it all off. Ooh. So following Centennial Week, the next big event is going to be the fireworks display for the 4th of July. Now, we've talked about in the past 4th of July and kind of these celebrations in the county's history. Both the 1921 and 1931 bridges were dedicated on the 4th of July. The Albert Gilchrist Bridge, the new bridge that was opened in 1976, that was dedicated on July 4th, right? So all of these events, and every time we talk about these events, there's always a grand fireworks display, grand fireworks show. Well, in 1987, not to be outdone, right? There will be more snap, crackle, and pop in this year's fireworks show, according to the man responsible for organizing the extravaganza. Ray Doherty, president-elect of the Punta Gorda Kiwanis Club and chairman of its 4th of July show, said Thursday that in honor of the city's centennial celebration, the fireworks will be the biggest and best ever. Now, I feel we've heard that before, but that's okay, right? Every generation has to put that forward, right? And trying to outdo the celebrations of the past. The show will run a full 40 minutes and will go off regardless of the weather, unless, of course, a tropical storm hits. Which, of course, in July is not out of the question, as we all know. The fireworks, which are scheduled to begin at about 9:30 p.m., will be launched from a barge in the middle of the Peace River, and the best place to view them will be from the Charlotte County Auditorium. The show will cap a day-long series of events at the auditorium beginning at 10 a.m. with the opening of exhibits. At 11 a.m., those who missed out on breakfast will find plenty of food available at the food stalls. Among the choice tidbits will be barbecue chicken and ribs, kielbasa, Italian sausage, and ice cream. Again, right, so correlation between 4th of July, fireworks, and some food of sorts. We've talked about with the bridges in 1921 and 1931. What did we see? A fish fry, right? So people coming out for the food, for the festivities, for the celebration. Oh, goodness. Bear with me here. The wind is giving us a little bit of a hard time. In addition to all these activities, so again, this is year-long events, as we've seen with Charlotte County Centennial this year. So the city has all these different plans. The committee has all these different plans. Later in the year, you're going to see a musical review, a play that was made for the Centennial. A Century in Motion, Punta Gorda's musical review of the town's 100 years, is steaming along full speed ahead in rehearsals of speaking parts and song and dance numbers. Choreographer Nancy Sasso is very pleased with the talent and enthusiasm of her groups, and writer-director Ken Larkin gives his entire team sincere applause for their dedicated hard work. Right, and so here again, a different artistic depiction of the county's history. So at the Centennial Pioneer Dance, right, we saw costumes, and portrayals of people from across the city's history, from across the region's history, and even the nation's history, right, because of the different things represented, but to represent those time periods. Here too, in the play, it's another way for the community to bring that history to life, to bring it to the people of Punta Gorda. So like all things, right, there always has to be some sort of big closing event, right? And in this case, the city is going to do a closing gala, right? And so you start to see articles promoting the closing of the Centennial. And perhaps it's fitting because Punta Gorda was founded in December, right? Founders Day, Founders Week, as it is celebrated today, right, is December. It's not in April, it's not during the summer, 4th of July, things of that. So even though the city has all of these city centennial events throughout the year, December really is the capstone. That really is the important pivotal moment, because that is in fact when the city was formally incorporated. So the Punta Gorda Centennial year is drawing to a close, and a week of festivities has been planned to wind up the 1986-87 year that saw a block party with Minnie Pearl, the lighting of homes along Retta Esplanade, renovations of Marion Avenue downtown, and a host of other activities, including a Centennial Parade to kick it off and the Chamber of Commerce Christmas Parade to wind it down. The city was founded on December 7, 1887, and will celebrate its 100th anniversary this year. The planning for this year-long celebration was underway for a year before the first event, right? So again, they're recapping the planning, they're recapping the year as they move forward with this pivotal moment. And then they recount kind of what those last days, or what that last period is going to look like. The Punta Gorda's Centennial celebration will light up the town this weekend. This is the first week of December, with a parade, a giant birthday cake, and a mass Christmas caroling, especially lighted up streets in one of Punta Gorda's oldest neighborhoods. Punta Gorda will be 100 years old on Monday, December 7th. The celebration will, hold on, we'll wait for the front to pass. At Memorial Auditorium at 8, and the tickets are sold out, right? So this was going to be the highlight of the year, the highlight of the season, and obviously it does not say how many tickets were up for sale, but it just says that everything was sold out, and I believe it had already been for some time. As the centennial year of Punta Gorda comes to a close, many events have been planned for this weekend. Again, they're still talking about this final founding weekend, bringing the year-long celebration to a climax. Beginning with the annual Christmas parade Saturday, December 6th, there will be a Centennial Ball later that day and a Charlotte County Centennial Band concert on Sunday. The Girl Scouts will join in the celebration when they meet Sunday to decorate the town Christmas tree and light the city with thousands of lights. Continuing with the Centennial theme, Medical Center Foundation has planned the second annual holiday tour of homes for later this week. And then it keeps giving information about the parade, right? And the gala, right, this was actually set up and designed by the Centennial Committee. So this is not something where the city is paying a company or paying somebody to go in and put this up. No, it is in fact the city themselves, members of these committees are putting this together. So this week, 100 volunteers have worked hundreds of hours to put together Punta Gorda's 100th birthday celebration. And for one person, it has been a labor of love. I've left the house each day this week at 6:30, and I never get home before 10:30, said Gussie Baker, a lifelong resident of Punta Gorda. She's chairwoman of a committee working to make Punta Gorda's birthday a success. Baker and about 10 other women were found Thursday night stringing up lights in the Memorial Auditorium in preparation for the Gala Centennial Ball featuring Jack Jones Saturday night. The Charlotte County Christmas dinner and party is tomorrow night, so we figured we'd get the lights up tonight so they can enjoy them. Right? So this is, as the header says, a labor of love. Right? This means so much to these folks, especially for long-time residents. And Gussie Baker is, she is still with us, still lives in the community, right? Is one of those long-time residents. So for them, this is truly a labor of love. This is not just, you know, a fancy headline to use in the newspapers. It really does ring true. Right? So then to recap. Centennial celebration winds down. About 150 Punta Gorda citizens and officials gathered in front of a balloon-decorated red brick city hall to take part in the closing ceremony of the city's 100th centennial year at 4 p.m. Monday. That would be Monday the 7th. Speeches by Mayor Jack Beck, Centennial Chairwoman Gussie Baker, and others honored hundreds of people that contributed to their efforts to make this centennial year a success. The city was incorporated 100 years ago Monday, and the ceremony brought to a close a year of parades, block parties, mass Christmas caroling, and fancy balls. After the ceremony, Baker had one more comment. I want the people of Punta Gorda and Charlotte County not to stop, but to continue the enthusiasm about our town and our heritage. She said the Centennial had not only boosted community spirit, but came out financially ahead as well. Right? We came out in okay shape. I don't know how much. The money may be transferred to the Punta Gorda Days Committee to important to think about, right, kind of the history of the city of Punta and the history of Charlotte County. And in the late 1980s, you are going to see this resurgence among the community of the need to preserve the history here, right? So some buildings had already been lost. And so there was this need, there was this desire to save as much as could be saved of what was left, right? To remind people, to teach people about the history of the area, right? So if you go to the history part over by the new Centennial Library today, right? You have structures in there, historic structures in there that were saved. Not necessarily because of the Punta Centennial, but I definitely think that this centennial moment arose in people, right, that spirit, that need to say, okay, well, we're celebrating this history, we're doing all this, let's actually physically save the history of this community. And, you know, I think not enough folks think about that today and think about how much history is still here. Yes, there has been elements of the history that has been lost, and that is part of every community, whether you're in Florida, whether you're in Maine, it doesn't matter, right? But there are good elements that have survived in Punta Gorda, in Port Charlotte, in Inglewood, across the county, right, where we have these structures that represent the county's history. And I think it's important, right? The green sign that you see behind me, right, the Charlotte County markers, right, designating what is no longer there, or in some cases what remains, but maybe does not look the way it did at one point. So centennial celebrations, anniversary right, these are important events, not in the city's history and in the county's history. And I think, you know, if we walk away from the county centennial here in 2021 with anything, or you take anything away from these videos that we've been doing, I hope it's that, you know, there is a lot of history here. There's great people who want to share that history, and so please come out, please follow us, and we are happy to share that with you, both new residents, old residents, and everyone in between. So stay tuned. Next month we will be tackling the 1990s, so we are getting there. It's almost time to close it all out in December of this year.